First things first is let's talk about some expectations with the one-handed swing or the single arm swing. We want the one-handed version of our swing to look as much as possible like a two-handed, with the understanding that it can't look exactly like a two-handed as far as the symmetry goes. At certain points of the exercise, we can expect quite a bit of symmetry, like almost perfect symmetry. And then at other stages, we have to be a little bit flexible because we're not going to get totally perfect symmetry. And we want to make sure that you understand what you should expect of yourself as you're trying to learn this. So the easiest part of the one-handed swing to be symmetrical is at the top of the swing. If I'm doing a two-handed swing, my shoulders are square, my hips are square. It's a perfectly symmetrical position. With the one-handed swing, it should be pretty much the same. It should be pretty much perfectly symmetrical. It should look like if you took someone that knew how to do Photoshop and they just Photoshopped out one arm, like that's what it should look like. It should be exactly symmetrical. Where we need to have a little bit of flexibility here is the bottom position. On a two-handed swing, the bottom position obviously should be perfectly symmetrical. With a one-handed swing, it's probably not going to be. And so we just need to try to keep it reasonably close to symmetrical. So as we're coming through, it'll probably look a little something like this, whereas I'm pretty square onto the camera. You can see that my shoulders are angled a little bit. It's nothing egregious, it's nothing crazy, but we're gonna have a little bit of that. Something like this, where like my shoulders are massively turned, my knee is caving in. We don't want that at all. That's gonna be a pretty dangerous position. We don't recommend you do your swings from there. So at the top, perfectly symmetrical, and at the bottom, kind of close, like as close as we reasonably can. And there's going to be a lot of body type factors and things like that go into how symmetrical each person can be. And there's never any substitute for good judgment there. So that's what we're going to be looking for. One of the other big parts on the kettlebell swing with only using one hand is the kettlebell is really going to try to unpack your shoulder. And the shoulder is going to be tempted to follow the momentum of the kettlebell. So at the top, we want symmetrical, but the kettlebell is trying to pull you asymmetrically. It's trying to pull you into this twist. So it's the job of your shoulder and of your core to resist that and stay as square as possible. Okay? Again, this would be a good packed shoulder at the top. And this big stretch would be an unpacked shoulder. We don't want that. Down at the bottom, it's going to be the same thing. The kettlebell is going to try to excessively drop my shoulder and twist me as I come down. And you need to be strong with your shoulder and with your back muscles to keep that to a minimum. We want to keep the shoulder held nicely into the socket and not let it get pulled outwards, really at any point in the motion. And this is a new challenge for you that you didn't really have with the two-handed swings. It's really a new thing for the one-handed swing. So we want that. The bottom position is a little tougher to learn because there's less ability to get feedback from your own body. But one good trick that we encourage you when you're new at this is at the top position. Let's say the kettlebell is in this hand, my left hand. One thing we're going to encourage is I'm going to tap the kettlebell with my other hand. Because if I can tap it, if I can reach it, that's going to let me know that I'm pretty square with my shoulders. If this one's way out here, this one can't tap, I can like only reach my elbow. It lets me also know that I'm twisting too much and I'm not going to be square. So you'll see us do that in some of the techniques here. And we definitely encourage you to do it at least until you're very confident in your ability to do these and stay packed and square. So without further ado, we'll get into it here. So Mira's going to go ahead and grab her kettlebell. I want you to get yours out and get it ready. And just like we learned the two-handed swing first with a kettlebell deadlift, we're going to do a few kettlebell deadlifts here so that you can do the same thing but with a one-handed deadlift. Okay? And I'll have Mira start facing right at the camera, and then we'll show a few angles as we do a few of these. So what she's going to do is make sure that she's as square as she can be, And the kettlebell is off to the side a little bit on mirror. It's like closer to one foot than the other foot. I'm standing the same way. And if you're not locked in with your core and your shoulder, it's going to twist you a lot. And so Mira's going to demonstrate 3 deadlifts with one hand, and then she'll set it down and do 3 with the other hand. And you'll see that she's able to stay pretty square. The hand that is not holding the kettlebell is going to hold like an invisible kettlebell, which will help her stay nice and square and not get too twisted up. So Mira will do 3 each side, and then we'll match it together. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And then she'll go and switch hands, and obviously she'll move it towards the other foot, of course. There's 1, 2, and 3. All right, so now it's going to be our turn. Kettlebell closer to your left foot. We're going to grip it only with your left hand. Ready? And go. We'll let Mira count.
1, 2, last 1, and 3. Good. Go ahead and switch sides. And go. 1, 2, and 3. Good job.
So that's the basics of just learning to kind of keep your shoulders square and your shoulder packed with the kettlebell deadlift. Let's go ahead and do one more set, and I'm going to have Mira turn more to the side. And I'm going to have her, whatever hand she's holding the kettlebell with, she's going to have that on the camera side, because I want you to see her lat muscle and how strong she's squeezing that when she does the lift. Okay, so Mira will do 3 more. Then again, you're going to look at this muscle here. She's like squeezing that in tight. Okay, there's 1, 2, and 3. And then she'll spin a 180 so that her other side faces the camera. One, 2, and 3. Yeah. All right, so now it'll be our turn. And again, you'll kind of really engage that same muscle you just saw Mira doing there.
Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3. Good. Go ahead and switch sides. And 1, and 2. Last 1, and 3. Good.
All right. So that's the basics of our one-handed deadlift. And we're going to do pretty much the same progression that you saw on the two-handed swing, and we're going to do it with one-handed swing here. So next up, Mira is going to do a one-handed hike pass. So she's not going to do an actual swing yet, but she's going to just hike it with only one hand and work on staying nice and square. She'll do 5 on the left, and then we'll match it, and then she'll do 5 on the right, and then we'll match it. And we'll have Mira do a few angles. Let's have her start right at the camera for the first set. Whenever you're ready. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. And you saw how, with Mira facing right at the camera, her shoulders were pretty square, and the kettlebell stayed a little bit closer to one foot than to the other foot. It wasn't quite right down the middle. Only once your weight gets really heavy will it probably go right down the middle, but if you're newer at this, then it's probably going to stay a little bit more off to one side. Okay. All right, our turn. Left hand for 5 reps.
And go. 1, 2, 3, 4,